Boundaries doesn't equal conflict. A lot of times when I'm working with a family member that has a loved one with substance abuse issues, I'll say, you got to set your boundary. And they'll be like, oh, I'm really avoiding conflict. I'm avoiding all that stuff. So boundaries does not equal conflict. It doesn't mean that sometimes it doesn't happen when we start setting boundaries and stuff, but that's not the purpose of the boundaries. It's actually so that we can live in a very compassionate sort of way. So, probably one of the best people that I've read that talks about leading boundaries with compassion and all that stuff is Brene Brown. I love Brene Brown in so many ways. She has all of the research done around especially shame, vulnerability, boundaries, and there was this one section in her book. It's actually The Gifts of Imperfection, and she has a section in here about boundaries and compassion and what does it mean. Now, I'm going to read this to you and be like, oh, this is great stuff. I'm totally going to start living that way. And you're going to find that it's a lot harder than it seems. And it's a practice. And that's some of the things is like, we are practicing some of these things, and there's still so much more to setting effective boundaries than just hearing something that you're like, oh, that's just a great mindset. We also have some things to shift and change. And so that can sometimes we need a little bit more support and help in that way. But I just wanted to read this section because I thought it was so great and so relevant to even the way that I look and the way that I set my own boundaries. It doesn't come from a place, I don't like conflict either, but it's actually avoiding more conflict down the line by being good at setting my boundaries. Boundaries to me is more about I love myself, and therefore I'm able to love you in a wholehearted way, as what Brene Brown will say, but just I'm able to actually be there for you, and I'm doing things for you as I'm doing things for me as well. So I just want to read this. So, one of the greatest and least discussed barriers to compassion practice is the fear of setting boundaries and holding people accountable. I know it sounds strange, but I believe that understanding the connection between boundaries, accountability, acceptance, and compassion has made me a kinder person. It has me as well. Before the breakdown, I was sweeter, judgmental, resentful, and angry on the inside, but sweeter on the outside. Does that sound familiar? I know a lot of people that are sweeter on the outside, but on the inside, they're angry, they're judgmental, they're resentful because people are just running all over them. Today, I think I'm generally more compassionate, less judgmental, and resentful, and way more serious about boundaries. I have no idea what this combination looks like on the outside, but it feels pretty powerful on the inside, and I can attest to that as well. Before this research, I knew a lot about each one of these concepts, but I didn't understand how they fit together. During the interviews, it blew my mind when I realized that many of the truly committed compassion practitioners were also the most boundary conscious people in the study. Compassionate people are boundaried people. I was stunned. Here's what I learned: the heart of compassion is really acceptance. The better we are at accepting ourselves and others, the more compassionate we become. Well, it's difficult to accept people when they are hurting us or taking advantage of us or walking all over us. This research has taught me that if we really want to practice compassion, we have to start by setting boundaries and holding people accountable for their behavior. So, as you can see, it's so much more loving and compassionate when we're actually setting boundaries. I mean, think about all of the kids out there. What if we just didn't set boundaries for them? Kids, it is a proven fact that kids do better with boundaries. That does not go away and change as we get into adulthood. We still need boundaries. We still need to know what other people expect of us. And we can either sign up for other people's boundaries or not. But if we want to come from a place of compassion and love, we can start with boundaries, because boundaries does not equal conflict. It does not mean we are turning our back on anyone. It does not mean that we are either, we're not practicing tough love. We are practicing love for ourselves and love for other people's, because we are doing things for them. We are not doing anything to them. So anyway, I hope that this was really helpful. And like I always like to say with tough love, is that tough love does not mean that you have to be tough on them. It means that sometimes you may have to make decisions that are tough to do. And sometimes we do have to set boundaries that are tough to do. And there's a lot more to it, but I hope this is really helpful. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me. You can email me or go check out my website, www.maniliconsulting.com, or you can also just email me, Jennifer@maniliconsulting.com. So I hope to hear from you soon.